Good afternoon. Initially, when we were talking about this few months ago, I think the plan was to do that, to do this in the coffee shop. And then biglang nag-expand na siya. And in fact, few months ago, when Aya Mike asked me, I had a little apprehension whether to accept or not because my wife just passed 3 months ago. And sabi ko, parang, kaya ko ba mamaya umiyak lang ako dito sa harap ninyo. But anyway, I think God is a gracious God. And I think having the opportunity to speak to everyone here, I think it's an honor and a privilege. So yeah, so basically, that's a general background about this. So a little overview about me. Yeah, so I came from a traditional Chinese family. So I came from a family of 5. I'm the second amongst 3 siblings. So I grew up in a very traditional Chinese family. So I see that there's a lot of Chinoys here. So our household, we're not very religious in the sense that in our altar, all stars siya. So we had Mama Mary, we had Santo Niño, and we also had a Buddha. So in our family, we think that as long as we do good, it should be fine. So I studied in Chiang Kai-shek, and then studied in La Salle. And when I was growing up, I was doing very well. I was an achiever, especially when I was in elementary and high school. So when I was still studying, I've never experienced failure. So usually in like yung mga tests, I was not able to experience that. So after graduation, my first business was a tech startup. So we launched Technominds, and from that business, we were able to become really successful. So we were able to get grants. We were able to be featured in various media, and I think at that time we were getting success. And since I was 25 at that time, I felt that we were. I think the success became very overwhelming. So in front, like, people see success. Kasi ganun naman usually. We usually, especially with social media, people see the facade. But deep inside, I feel lost and I feel incomplete. And because of that, I got my security from relationships. So I had past relationships at that time, and then also with business. So I think that's a typical Chinoy mindset, na parang the business, if you have a very successful business, I think yun yung nagiging basis ng identity. So I was like that. And when I was 25, that was the first major turning point happened. So the first one was I got swindled. I got swindled by an ex-girlfriend. And then after that, we also had BIR cases. And that BIR cases led to a warrant of arrest. So I got arrested by the police. And because of that, it became like from the pinnacle of success, everything fell down. So because of that, to cut the story short, we lost the business. So because of that, so I felt broken. And since my security at that time was the business, I felt very lost. And because of that brokenness, a friend of mine invited me to church. And actually, that's the first time that I accepted Christ. So I attended in a different church. And during the first day that I attended there, this verse was shared. Romans 5:3-5. Suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. So that experience actually transformed me. So if before I'm a typical happy-go-lucky guy that has no plans in life because yun lang, parang I just want to keep on working, that actually, that downfall made a 180-degree turn in myself. So basically, my maturity fastened, and that became the start of my transformation to becoming a more matured individual. And because of that, I was able to meet my wife. So we were a product of Kaishao. So for those non-Chinoys here, Kaishao means parang inintroduce. So at that time, we were introduced by a by a church mate, our small group. They introduced us, and because of that, because of my change, so parang I think I became a better person, and I think that attracted my wife. So after 4 years of as boyfriend and girlfriend, so we got married. So our relationship was smooth sailing. In fact, when we started the relationship, we said that the relationship should be based on honesty and transparency. And after being married for a few years, actually until for the 14 years, we never had major argument. It was a very peaceful relationship. And I felt that our relationship, in a way, was like, it was too good to be true. And as they always say, all good things come to an end. But before that, we were also blessed by with 3 wonderful kids. So the second turning point was 13 years after. So when we were having dinner, we had oyster at that time, and that dinner having oyster, that became the trigger, and my wife had series of 3 weeks of vomiting. So she had series of tests, and that test led to a stage 3 cancer diagnosis. So from a totally like zero symptom, we were surprised because for my wife at that time was 37 years old. And of course, like who would have thought that a 37-year-old would actually have cancer? So at that time, we were not checking. There was no medical regular checkups because we were confident na hindi, bata pa naman tayo eh. 30s pa lang naman. But in that particular situation, my wife was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. And after that diagnosis, of course, the doctors had to do an emergency surgery. Basically, they did a full gastrectomy. A full gastrectomy means taking out the entire stomach. So initially, I thought that was not possible, but it's possible pala to live without a stomach. So basically, they connected the esophagus down to the intestine. So it was a very challenging procedure. And 2 weeks after the full gastrectomy, my wife was the day before we were supposed to be discharged. All of a sudden, she had septic shock. So septic shock is like it's like a heart attack, but which means na nag-scatter yung there's something bad na nagkalat sa bloodstream, which can possibly lead to death. So basically, nung time na yon, the doctors approached me and told me that my wife was already 50-50 because the doctor said that she was her blood count and her vitals were too low, but miraculously my wife survived that ordeal, and from that situation, from our experience in the hospital, basically my wife was, I think we were there for 3 months in the hospital. As you can see there in the photo, we celebrated Christmas, New Year, her birthday, all in the hospital. But during that time, when me and my wife learned about that, of course, a part of us were questioning also, why did this happen? Why did we were still young, the kids are still growing up. But I think this verse helped us. It helped us appreciate or understand things better. So Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. So in these moments, even the situation was very difficult. We felt God's hand in every step of the way. So when my wife got a septic shock, the hospital opened the ER I think at 2 a.m. Usually they don't do that. So we felt that it was a favor also from the Lord. So they were able to do an emergency surgery to my wife. And the day after, the doctor said that if they were not able to do that emergency surgery, she might have passed already during that particular day. At the same time, during the time that we need blood, the hospital was generous enough to open their blood bank. Also during the wee hours of the night. So for us as a couple, while it's hard, but we focused on the positive side. We were grateful to the Lord for extending my wife, giving her the opportunity to actually overcome that scenario. So when my wife got discharged, so basically she was declared cancer-free. So she was cancer-free, but we were told that she had a very aggressive form of stomach cancer. So which means that whether she does chemo or not, the cancer might come back anytime soon. And during that time, because my wife was quite weak, so we decided not to go with chemo because we felt that we've talked to some friends wherein it was the chemo that was the cause of the reason why the patient got more sick. So we decided not to opt for chemo, but at the same time, this situation changed our mindset because we know that the stage 4 or the cancer might come back anytime soon. So we decided to treat every day as if it's the last. And we wanted to make every moment count, especially with the kids, because who knows what might happen the next day. So what we did was, my wife's mantra was, as long as she can walk, then we have to keep on building memories and experiences. So like this one in the photo, so during that period of 1 year, we went around, we documented everything. So every time we go to a specific place, we document everything. At the same time, kung before, like yung usual, like our kids were studying in school at that time. Our thinking before was, wag silang mag-absent. But because of that situation that, yun nga, like every experience or every travel might be the last. So we thought, hindi, okay lang mag-absent. I'm not encouraging na pa-absentin yung anak ninyo. Pero that was the mindset at that time because we felt na, yun nga, what if this becomes the last trip? So after 1 year, there was another turning point. So after 1 year, when we felt that things are starting to be normal, we learned that the cancer has recurred. So now, it became stage 4. So here in the Philippines, the doctor told us that maghintay na lang daw ng time. So ano na lang. So when we ask for their opinion, wag na daw bigyan ng treatment, wag na daw pahirapan. So sabi niya, mag-wait na lang. But kami, when I was talking to my wife, we thought my wife was still very young at that time. I think 38 years old. And we haven't explored all medical options yet. So fortunately, our onco here in the Philippines, she knew someone from Singapore who specializes in gastric cases. So basically, so after that, we flew na to Singapore. So we had no plans at that time. Initially, we were supposed to go there lang for a checkup. But that checkup led to treatments na. And then in the end, we decided na hindi, I think we need to stay na in Singapore for treatment. Because in Singapore, we were told that while the cancer is not curable, it can be managed. Here in the Philippines, we were given, I think, 25% survival rate. But in Singapore, we were given 70%. So sabi namin, I think it's no-brainer. It's no-brainer. So we decided to get that opportunity and fly there. But in Singapore, like it was not smooth sailing. While we were able to gain access to treatments, it was also a very challenging time. So because of those chemos that were done, so my wife had the opportunity to she was given the opportunity to have another surgery. So basically, they corrected something na hindi na maayos na gawa dito. So they had another surgery, but that surgery led to another round of ICU. So this one in the photo was another ICU case. At the same time, my wife had to learn everything from walking and the basic things that we take for granted, basic eating, walking. So all of those were were very challenging. But more than the physical toll, I think the most challenging was the financial side. Because when we went there, wala naman eh. Like, I don't think our savings was enough to really cover medication in Singapore. To give you an idea, I think the medication in Singapore was ×3 here, and we didn't have a medical insurance. So during that time, this verse was very this was the verse na pinanghawakan namin. You do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand. So this one resonated to us during that time. So when we were in Singapore, my wife was able to go through 30 plus chemo and treatments. And at the same time, the financial side, we were blessed to have the support also of the family members, of our friends, our small group, who actually help us, who provided also financial support and also business opportunities. So it was very challenging, but during that time, that's where we felt God's hands again. Because yun nga, parang we went there with zero plans at all, no plans of staying there, but we ended up staying there for almost 2 years. And we actually, hindi lang kami pupunta doon for treatment, but we actually semi-based in Singapore. But the most challenging part of staying in Singapore is leaving the kids here. Because at that time, we had to choose what's more important at that time. So we felt that my wife's health was more important. So we decided to go there, to stay there. But of course, with technology of Zoom, of CCTV, and we were also blessed to have trusted Yaya and then our driver. So we were able to surpass that. But we made sure that if there's a major activity, like a major life event, like a birthday, anniversary, we made sure that the family is always complete. So it's either we fly back here or we bring the kids there one by one if it's their birthday. But at the same time, similar to what we did during when my wife was in remission, so we made it a point that every moment would count. Like every time that either we're here or we're in Singapore, we document everything. So now we have a compilation of albums, videos, photos of all the things that happened during the past 2 years. And when my wife's health was starting to go down, November 2024, suddenly we gained access to a new medicine in Singapore. So this article that was published in Singapore, my wife was one of the few who was able to gain access to that new medicine. And because of that, my wife's life was extended by an extra 6 months. So she was in remission for that extra 6 months. And in fact, in Singapore, they said na in that clinic, they told us that my wife daw was a champion. Sabi ko, anong ibig sabihin champion? Sabi niya, mga kasabayan daw kasi ng wife ko, halos wala na daw. And yet, my wife was there. And during that time, when we arrived in Singapore, she was only given 1 year. And this was almost 2 years already. So again, these are blessings from God. Like we felt if we didn't took the risk and went to Singapore, maybe we won't be able to gain access to this new medicine because this medicine was not yet available here in the Philippines during that time. So the next major turning point was facing the inevitable. So our doctors told us that Cristel might have a few weeks or months left. I think this was April of this year. So the doctor told us that yun nga, she might have weeks or months left. So our biggest dilemma at that time was, do we bring the kids to Singapore or dito na lang? So my wife's stand during that time was to just leave the kids here and for us to just update them, call them if the worst happens. But sabi ko kasi at that point, I think the kids deserve to have their final goodbye to their mother. And yun nga, like in all of our decisions, in the treatments, in the hospital, and basically in our lives, we always make it a point that we decide together. Meaning we don't do something na ako lang, kung ako lang yon or siya lang yon, we won't do that. It should always be unanimous. But during this time, I felt that yun nga, parang I need to follow my gut because I felt na, oh, what if something bad happens to my wife and then our kids, even if they're young at this point, what if years from now, diba, they'll question me na, oh, bakit hindi niyo ako, why were they not given the opportunity to say their final goodbyes? So to cut the story short, so I decided to bring the kids to Singapore. So during that time, it was the day before Mother's Day. So the kids were able to spend time with Cristel, and they were able to give their last goodbyes. And yun din. So we let them experience basically everything. Like, of course, the actual passing, wala na. But they were part of like the last few days. So when we arrived there, my wife passed 1 week after. So initially, we thought we had weeks or months. But things went very fast. And she passed 1 week after. And before she passed, I saw that she was very happy to see the kids. And for me, I think it's a validation that maybe I think I did the right decision of bringing the kids there. But of course, at the start kasi may thinking yung wife ko na baka daw matrauma yung kids or baka daw makita daw siya na hindi na daw siya maganda. Sabi ko naman, at the end of the day, I think those physical don't matter anymore. But it's the touch and the time that the kids can spend time with their mother. So basically, they were able also to be part of the cremation and all of those. Kasi my wife passed in Singapore by choice naman din because she said that she wanted there because para hindi na daw, para when we bring her here, nasa urn na lang daw. So for me, my stand there was, I think the kids, sometimes kasi us as parents, we want to shelter or protect the kids. But ako kasi, my mindset at that time was, I think the kids, they have to go through that process para ma-feel nila yung deep, yung bagsak. And I think if they're able to be hurt or to be able to experience that painful experience, sooner or later, it would help their maturity also. It would fasten their maturity. And that's what we did. So basically my wife passed in Singapore and then we brought her here a week after. So as you can see in terms of the setup, it was we designed it in such a way that it's lighter. It's like a celebration because that was the request of my wife. If there's such thing as a planned departure, I think because we had that time to prepare few years ago, we knew already that time might be up anytime soon. So my wife planned everything. So the design, like to put her photos and everything, it was all her request. In-execute lang namin siya. So that's why when I was there during that time, a lot of people, of course, they were consoling, they were asking me how we are, especially me, how I was as the husband. But I said that I think I'm at peace during that time because 2022 when my wife was diagnosed, we were already told na 1 year, and then she surpassed that. When she was stage 4, we were again given another 1 year, and this happened 3 years after, and I felt that she was able to exceed a typical life expectancy of a stomach cancer patient. And more than galit or maybe questioning, I was grateful to God. Like I felt that that 3 extra years, we were able to really maximize whatever possible. Like we were able to travel, we were able to spend every occasions together, and that for me is the most important thing. So one of the most difficult questions threw at me by my kid was, how do we talk to mommy now that she's in heaven? So that was one of the questions that they asked me the day after she passed. So we were still in Singapore at that time, and sabi ko sa kanila, si Cristel, she might not communicate to us anymore as similar to before, where she'll answer us straight up. But sabi ko, she'll use the scenario to actually talk to us. So in one of our trips in Singapore, kasi may kids were looking forward to the double-decker na bus eh. And they were there for almost 2 weeks already. And we were not, they were not, parang hindi namin natsyempohan yung double-decker kasi di ka naman makakapili doon when you're commuting eh. So my kids at that time were praying. Now, sabi nila, mami, sana bigyan mo kami ng double-decker bus. Let us ride that double-decker bus. And lo and behold, double-decker bus nga yung dumating. And then, when we were inside the double-decker bus, suddenly, there was a butterfly that came out. So, it went to me, to my son, to my mother-in-law. So, sabi ko, so yun yung ginamit kong sample. Sabi ko, see, mommy heard you. She was not able to talk to you, but she made it happen. So, that butterfly thing, even pagbalik namin dito, there were a lot of butterfly encounters. In fact, from the time my wife passed May, I think there were 30 plus butterfly encounters. We documented it also, we recorded it. And in a way, I think it helped my kids cope up with the scenario because they knew that even if their mom is no longer present here, but because of that butterfly, they're able to see na, okay, nandiyan pa naman si mommy. And even last week, nandiyan pa rin. Like sometimes sa house namin, may lalabas. A few weeks ago, we went to Baguio. There was another butterfly. So those butterfly encounters were very helpful. And in fact, yung mga butterfly na nakita ko in the past 3 months was more than the butterfly encounters I had in the past 40 years. So for us, it's parang we see that as a blessing. And in a way, God was there to really help us in terms of overcoming all of this scenario. So what failing forward actually taught me? So I am sharing three learnings. One is I realized that family is the most important over everything. I'm a typical Chinoy businessman. Like before this happened, 90% of my time is focused on working. Only 10% of my time is with family, with my personal, because that's how we're wired to keep on working. And I think that's where we measure productivity. When my wife got stage 3 cancer and then we had to fly to Singapore, so I had to let go of the business. I need to, not naman let go, but I need to delegate because I had to choose what's more important. Is it the business or is it my wife? So sabi ko, of course, I don't want naman na dumating yung point na my wife will look for me and then sabihin din, nagtatrabaho siya. So I decided to let go. And then when my wife passed, so I decided also to pull out my kids sa traditional school. So now I'm homeschooling them because I felt that I think this period is very critical. A few weeks ago, may kids asked me, sabi nila, ba't daw kinuha ni Lord yung mami nila, bata pa naman daw sila. Diba? Like, I get questions like that from time to time, and I want to be able to be the one to answer that as compared to them asking that questions to their classmates, maybe to their teachers, na hindi naman makaka-relate din on what's happening. So, my first two kids are with me, homeschooling, and then the last one, siya lang yung bumalik because With preschool naman, I think the school started July. So I think he was able to, we felt that it's best for him to be there. So number two, failures are redirection. So what do I mean by that? Like for me, like I've shared a while ago the different failed experiences that I've encountered. But I think in a way now, if I look back, my exposure in Singapore for almost 2 years actually helped broaden my vision. Before, parang the challenge with us is how do we expand? And before, kasi our target is a Chinese-Filipino market, and we know that the Chinese Filipinos here are quite limited. But when I got to Singapore and being there for 2 years, I realized, and people started talking to me in Hokkien, in Mandarin, then I realized now, what if we expand our contents outside the Philippines? And in every country now, there's Chinatown, there's a lot of overseas Chinese. So I utilized that opportunity to meet people in Singapore, in Malaysia, to build our network. And now, it gave us the opportunity now to expand our contents and projects outside the Philippines. Number three is to let go and to let God. So when like us, like ako personally, like before, our tendency always is to hold on things. At that point, I always hold on to the business. That's my security. But all of this scenario made me realize na iba pa rin if you let go of things, 'di ba? Like that's where God makes his presence felt. So when I decided to delegate and let go of the business, I think it made the business better as compared to me being there 90% of the time. At the same time, when I decided to, with our medical journey with my wife, when we were there here in the Philippines, in Singapore, when we decided to let go of things na, oh Lord, ikaw na bahala, then especially when we were in Singapore, as in wala kaming plan talaga eh. Whatever opportunity, we just grabbed it. We didn't even know until kailan ba kami doon. We don't even know kailan ba kami babalik dito. Like our flight there was we booked 1 to 2 weeks. It's always a last minute decision because we let God decide for us. Whatever leading, that's what we grab. So as I close, I think of Job. Diba? Like Job is a character in Bible, and as we know, Job lost everything: his wealth, his health, even his family. He was scarred like a man who went through war. Yet in the midst of those losses, he said this, Job 1:21, the Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. So in my life, as based on my sharing a while ago, I've walked through losses, carried scars from betrayals, storms, and the passing of my wife. But like Job, I stand here not because I am strong, but because God is faithful. So in summary, so basically this is the pattern of my journey. So in my 20s, when I knew God, so I found direction. So as mentioned, like what I shared a while ago, when I got swindled, when I lost the business, so that's where I got to accept the Lord. So that gave me the direction. So when I trusted God during the cancer battle, I found peace. So both for during the stage 3 and stage 4 situation of my wife. And right now, when my wife passed, so basically I found purpose. And I think that's the focus now of the next chapter of my life in my 40s. And that's one of the reasons also why I decided na maybe it's good also to have this opportunity to share because it's connected to my purpose right now. So this is my last slide. So basically, this is a vision or a visual of my life right now. A lot of people are asking, where do I get my peace? And I said, using my wife's name. So I divided it into Christ and L, where L represents love. I think if for me, I realized that as long as Christ is in your heart, and you know that there's an assurance that God loves us, that in everything that we do, He's always there, then I think that's where you find peace. So for me, the Christ and love, I think this is the legacy that my wife has left behind in me. And that's also the message that I leave with all of you today. Thank you very much and good afternoon.